HCHB is proud to sponsor the Last Visit First podcast, which explores the complex issues faced by today's home health and hospice providers.
In the spotlight today, Chief Revenue Officer Hannah Pearson, explaining how HCHB uses technology to connect people.
One of my favorite phrases is relationship architect. The focus is about the client and building the right community, the right fabric of community around our customers, making sure that from the very bottom to the very top, they had a resource and a contact to reach out to with any problems, and that we could connect them quickly and expeditiously to the right resource. That's where the client success team was born, and we touch people at every level of the organization.
Welcome to the show, Jason Yu. Jason is the founder and chief executive officer of Levo. It's a workforce engagement platform focused on building better jobs for clinicians. He's a Wharton grad. That's how I got to meet him. I don't know if you guys all know the story. Back in the day, April used to do a presentation up at Wharton, and so as she would bring these MBA students through her classes, they'd all ask a bunch of questions, and then she'd come back to the office and say, "Tom, give them all the information they need about home health and hospice." And so I used to work for Wharton, is the way I used to say it. And Jason was one of those that came through the partnership. Many people have came to me and said, "Hey, you got to meet this guy, Jason Yu. He's building some really cool stuff," including Shane and Tara and lots of other people that went through the Wharton school, the business school there. So, there's kind of a cult going on at Wharton, but it's a cult of great success. And that's what we like to call it.
It's like only the Abilene Christian University.
Yeah, it's like the Abilene Christian, conglomerate for sure. Let's get in. Jason, tell us who you are, what you do, why you founded Levo. Give us your backstory. Love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Tom. Appreciate it. And yeah, the short version of it is by accident. So the short story of me is I actually started out as a fourth grade English teacher in Thailand. Was there for a year, and up in hill country. So it's called Chiang Mai, and taught 160 students. After that, went into, I would say, more of like my adult job and became a management consultant at BCG, first in DC, and then I followed a girl up to Boston, now my wife. And during that time, I had a bunch of different clients, mainly in healthcare, and we were doing like private equity diligences as well. And one of my clients owned a home care business. So got in touch with the CEO of that business, and we hit it off. And he mentioned, "Hey, I know you're going to business school. Like, are you interested in actually like running a business compared to kind of like doing these like research questions and going on site with clients, doing a pretty PowerPoint deck and then leaving?" And yeah, I mean, I was 25, 26 at the time. And it was one of those, I think this will be an adventure sort of decisions. It sure was an adventure because it was President's Day weekend, 2020. And that was my first day. It was a staff of 4 in the office. We did personal care, and there were 130 or so employees around suburban Boston. I had 20 days to, I didn't know this at the time, but I had 20 days to get to know the staff, get to know our clients, patients, get to know their families before everything shut down during the pandemic. So what started out as, oh, this will be a cool experience before business school, ended up being the thing that really steered the direction of my life for the last half a decade. And how Levo started was during those 6 months, we were trying to figure out, how do we keep our employees safe? What are the things that we can do? So obviously we had the protocols, and we were scrambling to get like PPE. We were scrambling to figure out, all right, what are like the safest procedures to make sure that everyone is like as safe and as cared for as possible. And our workforce at the time, they were very scared, rightfully so. They didn't want to like go into people's homes and potentially contract something that they would then bring back to their families. So we tried all sorts of different things, the whole like management consulting, business school, whatever. So like we had like project management boards, we had different software and all that kind of stuff. We got back to a whiteboard with sticky notes. And what we did was just, all right, did Gladys get her face mask? Did Christina get her gloves? Did we check in on Mrs. Smith? And just different color sticky notes. And at the end of the day, we would take everything out. And at the beginning of the day, we would put down like what were the things that we had to do. So I think that was the first thing where, all right, let's just track like the different ways we keep in touch with our employees and make sure that everyone is well taken care of. And then the other thing we realized is, hey, we were just texting our employees a ton. And we were trying to get in touch with them and trying to make sure, like, all right, are there like changes in condition? Is there something like in your family situation that we need to take care of? So one thing led to another. Went to school, sat in April's lecture, all those sort of things, and basically the kernel of Levo came out in terms of, hey, turns out when you are engaging your employees and you are listening to them, you actually have a really good pulse of how people are doing. And if that's the case, then you can actually predict when someone is not doing as well, and you can get in front of it and you can do all of those things. And frankly, it was one of those things I was talking to my wife about it last night, where we were like, every step of the way, it was like, oh, like maybe this will be cool. Maybe this might be a fun idea or something like that. And it just kept growing. So here we are today.
It's amazing. That's amazing. So I've played golf with you a few times, so I know you're not an avid golfer.
Thanks.
But you tried and you haven't quit. So that's the best part. So I was playing golf the other day with a guy, and he told me, he said, when he first started getting lessons, the new coach told him he should take 2 weeks off and then quit. I said, that's great. That's great. Actually, when I went to my golf coach, he's like, you ever taking pickleball up, Tom? And I'm like, oh, I'm paying you for this. So what do you do outside of work, Jason? I mean, you work all the time, I know that, but what do you do outside of work?
I like to be like physically outside. So my family, we live in Boston. We have my mother-in-law out here, a couple of buddies as well. And yeah, I mean, let's take this weekend, for example. We're going up to New Hampshire, going to camp with a dog, and just spend as much time outside as possible. I used to do like triathlons, other sort of races, that sort of thing. I could be convinced to do it again, but I think, I don't know, I work a lot. like this is my passion. This is what I do for fun.
Yeah, it's hard when you're in this business and you're deep into a startup and you're getting going. It's hard not to spend your whole entire life on it. But good for you for taking care of yourself, and being outside is important. Jen and I have been on this health journey for the last 3 or 4 years, and lost a ton of weight, and changed our lives. And the big motivator for us was we spent all this time and effort helping as a consulting company, helping all the other customers out there, and we spent all this time on our own business. Whether it's implementing NetSuite or technology, smart sheets, all those kind of things. And then we forget to take care of ourselves physically. And so Jen and I kind of went on this journey of wellness for the last 3 years of we're going to spend as much time on ourselves as we do on the business. And it's kind of changed your attitude and changes who you are. So good for you. What's the one lesson outside of healthcare that you can carry forward in leadership? Something you've learned that's not in healthcare?
Ability is normally distributed, but opportunity is not. So we're a bootstrap business. We're funded by our customers, and we grow with our customers. And one of the things that comes with this is you can't necessarily get the people who are the shiniest. You can't get the people who are the most pedigreed or have exactly the experience that you're looking for. So our team, everyone who's here has some sort of like chip on their shoulder, because it's either they went to a college because it was fully paid for, or they didn't go to college at all, or anything like that. And what I learned, and this is from kind of like earlier as someone who was given one of those opportunities earlier in life, is that you just have to look for that drive. You just have to look for like whether they got it. And it's really helped, especially while working in healthcare and working in technology.
That's cool. That's real cool. All right. What does last visit first mean to you?
It means putting in as much, like giving your all for both the first visit when you are just starting to develop a relationship with the patient, as well as the last when you are like sending them off with dignity. And this is something that we look at a lot because our customers, like our users, they're the clinicians who take care of patients day in, day out. And in the case of hospice, they're the ones where like they are usually the ones who are also like saying goodbye to their patients, the people who they may have taken care of up to 6 months. And it's really bringing your whole self and really giving it your all. And I see it as our job to make sure that there is still some to give and that we're not having our clinicians, like, as they say, like pour from an empty cup. It's something very powerful for us.
Yeah, it's why we created it. Cole and I spent a ton of time trying to figure out the name for it, and this one kept coming first. It kept coming up like, we got to treat that patient just like we would on the last visit, just like on the first visit, and every interaction out there. April said it best. Every interaction is somebody else's grandma, somebody's loved one that we're trying to take care of, and this is a super sensitive time in their lives. They're, especially those that are going on hospice. They're essentially at the end of their life, and so how do we make every one of those experiences very impactful? That's awesome. Where do you see the biggest white space opportunities in home health and hospice? From a technologist, so guys trying to build, technology that people want to use, and turnover is a big deal. I know that, but where do you see the biggest white space?
Whatever it is to get the clinicians in front of the patients more. So what I mean by this is, if we think about the number of people who are going to need home health and hospice, it's going up. It's not going down. But then when you think about the number of people who are in the industry and want to take care of people in home health and hospice, it's going like this. So this gap, it's not getting any bigger. It's not getting any smaller. Sorry. So when I think of like, all right, what are the things that will help with that gap so that as many people get the care that they need? It's how do we make the providers more efficient from an operating perspective so that you have clinicians who are able to focus their time on taking care of patients and not necessarily all the administrative burden on the back end. And how do you set up these operations so that they can actually focus on the patient and taking care of the patient versus, I don't know, like back offices have gotten really big. I think that's probably the best way to put it. And
for sure.
the more we focus on how do we improve or increase the ability to take care of patients, to get them the care that they deserve and the support that they need, the closer we're going to get to actually like achieving our goals.
I agree with that. And it's super interesting. Every year in July, we get the proposed rule, and then every Halloween, we get the final rule right around there. And it changes the way although the rule changes our financial impact. That's the most important piece. Like it in home health decreases, in hospice has been increasing. But then there's all these other things that come out with the rule, the HOPE assessment, CMS changed from, PPS to PDGM to, we used to do MOA 25 and therapy visits and M2200 and all that mattered. And so it's gotten a lot harder. And so, attracting more talent to home health and hospice in a regulated environment where you're by yourself, essentially in the home is harder. Mm-hmm. As you think about these things, how does that impact the development cycle at Levo? I mean, you guys are constantly reading these rules and worrying about, is the government going to force some kind of standard that we're going to have to adjust to? So what is your thoughts around that, and how do you handle that?
We think a lot about hope, and how we're adjusting to that is now it's more important than ever to keep a finger on the pulse of who is adjusting to the new procedures and who's having more trouble. So one of the biggest signals that we see today is, hey, this is my first time documenting on a tablet. I don't know how to do this. or we see in the data, people are taking work home with them, and they sign up for this job and move from the hospital for the most part, specifically because they wanted to have more work-life balance, they want to have flexibility, they wanted to spend more time with their families. So with all of these changes and all the trainings and compliance modules and forms that need to be filled and all those sort of things, it's more important than ever to make sure that clinicians are not falling through the cracks. That in this constant push towards efficiency, where the like the amount of the amount of revenue per visit on the home health side, it's going down, and then we're potentially worried about like hospice getting carved in to Medicare Advantage, and that's probably going to affect rates as well. And then all that gets pushed down to the clinician. And it's more important than ever to, one, have the right type of education resources that are there, two, to have the right technology to offload as much as possible from the clinician themselves to the central support, and three, to keep your finger on the pulse to make sure, all right, if one and two is not working out, who are the people who do need more support, or who are the people who need to have just more expectation setting in terms of what working in post-acute is like.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about, you and I were talking, I don't know, it's been a few months ago, about if you're the smartest sales guy or the best sales guy, or you hit the quota, month over month over month, and you're really good at it, they promote you. But they never promote you and say, hey, here's all this management training you need. And, I've been to college a bunch. I know you did your master's, but they don't teach you how to run an operation. They don't teach you how to talk to a nurse about productivity. They don't teach you how to, make sure your sales teams are hitting the right markers. And if you're a great nurse and you hit productivity all the time in your nursing, then they promote you to be a clinical supervisor, and then you move up the chain, which is all great. But what they forgot there is there's no leadership training in there. Very few companies do a good job of leadership training. And so I think it's one of the things that you guys are really working on is how do we encourage and coach these people on, one, who do we need to talk to? Who's having problems? Who's not getting enough education? Who's getting frustrated? Who's getting burned out? Who's seen too many deaths, in the home? And how do we give them resources to do that? And so it's cool. I think there's a gap in our industry around that for sure, as more and more people, especially in the, newer in their careers, are coming into home health and hospice because they don't want to be in the hospital. They don't want to, do that. The other side of it is you talked about documentation, which I think is interesting. If a nurse doesn't finish her documentation at the ER, and by the way, I worked in the ER for many, many years, so we talk a lot about that. Or if a corpsman doesn't, or a PA doesn't, or a doctor doesn't finish their documentation, what happens? They call them in. As soon as you get home, they call you back and you go back and sign a piece of paper or finish your documentation. But in this industry, in the home health and hospice industry, it's become, because documentation is such a burden, it's becoming a real big deal that people are doing it at night. And we see it all the time in the data like you do. We got to solve that somehow. We need people. When I get home at night, although I do work all the time, the last thing I want to do is, think about immediately getting my documentation done. And so I think it's super important that we figure this out and solve it. And thank you for trying to address that and at least highlight the ones that we need to give more attention to. Where'd you come up with the name of Levo?
This is a funny one, and thanks for you're pronouncing it correctly, Levo.
You corrected me 1,000 times.
Well, yeah, I hear Levo a lot, which I think it does make sense, like when a word ends in a vowel, like that sort of thing. So there's this Latin word called levare, and it's the same root in the word levitate. So it means to lift, to make light. And that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build better jobs. We are trying to help clinicians continue doing what they love. Because at the end of the day, people do not leave the industry. People do not quit companies because they all of a sudden don't care about caring for people. People don't change just like that. People leave because they get spat out in one way or another. And it's funny. We had a new hire start on Monday, and we were out to lunch, and I was and she asked the same question. I was like, "Oh, what does Levo stand for?" And truly, it's just I just see it as three concentric circles. No, not concentric. Three overlapping circles, where one of them is we want to make it so that people who are working in this industry can stay in this industry, because people don't quit because they had one bad patient encounter. People don't quit because they had car trouble one day. People, and believe it or not, people don't quit because one day they realize they can make 25 cents more down the street. I know it's a pretty popular narrative, but we don't see it in our data. People
So why
quit.
do people quit?
People quit because there are things about their day that absolutely grind them inch by inch, and they feel like they have no control. They have no say over what they can do. So this could be a supervisor who yells at them for missing productivity. This could be too many baseball games or ballet practice or ballet recitals or anything that they've missed because of their schedule. This could be too many dinners that were late because they were documenting at home. Those are the things that grind away at someone until they decide, you know what, this is not worth it anymore. So that's kind of like circle number one. Circle number two is, guess what? If you can surface these issues and you can have the right workflows to, even if you can't solve the issue, at least acknowledge the issue and say, all right, this is something that we are working on as a team. And here are kind of like the milestones that we're working towards. Then guess what? People quit less. We see that in the data. Like, it actually does not matter like who does the follow-up. It could be someone from central team. It could be like a direct supervisor. It could be anybody. As long as they're followed up with, the chances of them turning over in the next 30 days drop dramatically. So then guess what? That also means that you have more continuity. So that means your patients will be able to get better care. They have people who understand them, can ask them about like their children, their dogs, and like build a relationship. Because like when you think about like who are the patients in like home health and hospice, like their medical team makes up a good amount of their social interactions in the day. It's
For sure.
it's so important to be able to keep that relationship. And guess what? When you have happy employees and you have happy patients, you get more referrals as a business. You're able to turn more referrals into admissions, and you're able to then grow and further take care of the people who need you to take care of them. Is it always just comes back to this: number of people who need care, number of people who want to give care. That gap, that's where we're playing.
Yeah, it's for sure. It's awesome. Well said.
This is Scott Beard, Chief Strategy Officer at Maxwell TEC. One of the biggest challenges in post-acute care is leakage, when patients leave your care and never come back, even when they need you the most. Many agencies hire staff to call patients after discharge, but the sheer volume means only a small percentage can actually be reached. That leaves gaps, drives up cost, and puts patients at risk. That's why we created NanaConnect Reach, a fully automated text-based engagement platform that follows up with every patient every time. Reach reduces the cost of staffing while delivering something no call center team can match: the automated reach of 100% of your patient population. Patients love the ease of texting, and agencies love the results. Engagement rates are consistently 30 to 40%, meaning patients are not only getting the messages, they're responding. With NanaConnect Reach, agencies lower cost, protect against leakage, and ensure no patient slips through the cracks. Learn more at maxwelltech.com or connect with us via email at sales@maxwelltech.com.
Couple more questions. Let's talk about AI. How's Levo using AI and your thoughts around AI? And then I got a fun story for you where AI failed me that I want to talk about.
Please. So we're using AI to give time back to our customers. And what I mean by this is we have an always on, like 24/7, round the clock AI recruiter that our customers of Levo Recruit are using. And what this means is, think of like all those kind of like clinical interviews. There's a lot of like, how comfortable are you with? And then you ask for like self-attestation. And then like there's like a technical portion, a clinical portion, a general, how many years of experience, those sort of things. We take that screening out of the like off of the plates for the recruiters, and we make it so that like people can do it whenever they need. Nurses, aides, therapists, they don't work 9 to 5. They don't work Monday through Friday. They work whenever the patients need them. And that makes it so that when they are also interested in their next opportunity, we want to be there and we want to be able to respond whenever. So between that, the automated recruitment, so we call it an AI slip and slide, which is basically as long as the candidate is still interested and qualified for the opportunity, we will always have a next step for them. So after the screening interview, we're going to get you some application forms. After the application forms, we're going to route you to the right conditional offer letter. After the right conditional offer letter, we're going to collect the right documents. We're going to check your licensure. We're going to check all those things so that when the recruiter who does work 9 to 5 wakes up the next morning, they have someone who is already qualified. And guess what? That means that recruiters are now able to spend a lot more time getting to know the candidate as a person and being able to really explain. Let's just take Dallas Fort Worth, for example. If you're an agency in Dallas Fort Worth, what separates you from the guy next door? It's the quality of the person who is developing the relationship with the applicant. And that's the time and that's the bandwidth that we're giving back to our customers. And frankly, there's a compliance play as well, but we don't need to go too deep into that.
So would you say you guys are speeding up that process where a recruiter can, one, be more effective because they're talking to people that are qualified for the job and they're not having to do that piece of it, but then two, the quality of the candidates getting to them are way higher, and then three, a recruiter's not just sitting there doing the basic, you respond to this email, respond to this text, those kind of things, or playing phone tag. So what's the efficiency play there? How much faster are you than the rest?
Yeah.
Than a non-AI generated, non-Levo customer.
Yeah. So we're seeing from before Levo to after Levo efficiency gains of up to 40% in terms of time to fill. So we're going from weeks to days.
And that's a big problem in this industry. I mean, there's a big gap. If I can't take more patients, if I don't have the clinicians, and once I get you hired, I take the orientation, which is 1 to 2 weeks. You go through your mentorship or your proctorship or whatever you call it in your organization. And in 4 weeks, you're ready to go. Maybe 5 weeks, you're ready to go if you have some experience. Reducing that cycle time is going to be a big deal. I mean, that's a lot of patients that you can take. That's awesome. Let me tell you my ChatGPT story that happened to me. And again, I'm AI guru. I spend a lot of time in AI. Jason and I spend a lot of time talking in AI, which is kind of why we hit it off, is we're both kind of geeks around this stuff. So I have 16 guys coming down from Minnesota to play golf here at Desert Mountain with me in about a month. We do it every year. It's a guy's trip. It's a great time. And so I wanted to create bag tags for everybody's bags so that when the caddies or the golf staff are there, they know we're all part of the same group. And it was going to be a cool little logo with, Desert Mountain logo and, golf ball on it, say Scottsdale and then Desert Mountain 2025. And I put that into ChatGPT to create this logo, and it created a fantastic logo, but it can't spell mountain. And I've now prompted it 20 times and even told it how to spell mountain, and it can't get it right on there. So what the real truth of the story is I sent it in and got it, and when they came back, Melton was spelled with 2 U's, and I didn't notice it. I expected, ChatGPT to do it. And so then I've been trying to correct this logo to get them redone. And I just finally have to give it to Cole and say, hey, use, Canva or something like that to do it, because ChatGPT can't spell mountain. It can't spell mountain. It's the craziest thing. And I've done it 30 times. So if it can't spell mountain, then, we're all using ChatGPT or we're all using some kind of a large language model. But that's a perfect example of, it's not perfect, but humans aren't perfect either. And so how do we use the AI, but make sure we check it? But I was so frustrated, just why can't this thing spell mountain? It's such an easy word.
I mean, don't try getting ChatGPT to do math.
Yeah, it's it can do a lot of it, but then sometimes it breaks, right? It's all about the prompts. So it's what's one area in the industry that we keep getting wrong that you have a fix for, or that you think we could fix? Is there something out there that we consistently are not doing right that you think we should correct?
I'm starting to see a change here, but I'd say the biggest frustration from 2020 to now is you're trying to put in technology, you're trying to increase efficiencies, but when push comes to shove, the original process doesn't change. So one of the things that we've seen is, especially on the recruit side, as opposed to retain, because for retain, it's usually a net new process. So we usually don't have as much baggage to work with, but on the recruit side, there's oh, well, like here are all the forms that like we need to do. This is the manual check that we need to do. And then this is the handoff that happens. We like to combine a PDF and then we need to split up the PDF. And it's almost, it almost feels like a ritual, I would say, within the industry where you go in, you hire people who like have decades of experience, who've done this, and then you have them build up your systems, especially if you're a company that's scaling, moving from like single site to multi-site, multi-site to multi-state. Like you want to be able to build your systems, you want to have your processes and all those sort of things. And probably the biggest thing that we've seen is people default to the things that they are comfortable with. And there's an inherent almost distrust of things that are new. And again, I'm seeing a big change in the last, I would say, like 12 to 18 months. And it's probably because like people are hearing from the boards or whatever. It's like, hey, you have to like implement AI and you have to be more efficient in the ways that you're doing things. But because of that, I think there's just like inherent like friction in terms of what do you mean an AI is going to collect my applicant's documents? Like we really need that human touch because when people aren't uploading their documents correctly, that is how we have the interaction with the applicants. And it's like, well, it's either that or you can call them and like truly like talk to them and get to know them as a human being.
It's it's so interesting to me. Like two of our things that we do at the companies that I'm a part of is how do we make it easy to do business with us? How do I make doing business with us easy? And it's all those kind of things. And then how do I make working here easy and fun? And if you think about it, most people, if you want to apply for a job, I haven't applied for a job in, I don't know, since 2005 when April hired me. I
Yeah.
think it was the last job I applied for. But you got to go out, you got to fill out this application, you got to put all this information in there. Well, all that stuff's already in your LinkedIn. So like just drop your LinkedIn thing. I mean, you got to create a resume, you got to give me this card and this file and this document. I mean, AI can do all that for us so easy. And I mean, it's just like going to the doctor's office. What are your medications? What's your name? What's your Medicare number? I mean, why can't you share that information across each other? Why can't I have a QR code with all my stuff on there and walk in and hand it to you and your system absorbs it? I mean, it's, making doing business with us easy or making working here easy is two models that I think everybody should adopt. And
Yeah.
but it's so difficult, right, to apply for jobs. I mean, you wonder why people are so frustrated with it. But I think there's an easier way to do it, and I think you're right.
If you don't have enough nurses in the system, like don't make it hard for the people who want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I always tell a story. I was working with a home health agency and we're getting no applicants because this is during COVID. They were getting no applicants into their system. And it's because they had a 7-year home health requirement. So you had to have 7 years of home health experience. I'm like, so we're not going to hire the person that doesn't have 2 years experience or 1 year experience. But the system was screening off everybody that didn't have 7 years of experience.
Yep.
So we were getting no applicants. We changed that overnight. We were full. And so I always tell people, look at your Indeed, look at your LinkedIn, look at all those kind of things to make sure that your requirements that you're looking for are not there. But then how do you adopt tools to make it fast? And by the way, we're all trying to hire nurses. We're all trying to hire therapists. We're all trying to hire aides. So if you're not fast and quick at this, you're not going to get them. I mean, they're applying for 10 jobs at a time, and they're really good at it. You and I talked a while back around turnover trends. So I want to kind of spend a little bit of time on that. I consider you one of the experts because you look at so much data around it. But when is most turnover happening? Is it in the first 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, year? And then once I get you to a year, how long do you stay normally? So any stats on that or any thoughts around that?
Yeah. So I think the way to think about it is just power law sort of thing where most turnover will happen within the first 6 months. And if we're talking about like an hourly position, such as an aide, per visit therapist, like those sort of roles, that's actually within the first 90 days. And there are like certain predictors to figure out. So it's like, did you meet your supervisor, or like how quickly did you get onto your first case? Like how quickly did you ramp? Did you finish orientation? Like all those sort of things. But at the end of the day, like you can just think like the first milestone, get to the 3-month mark. And then after you get to the 3-month mark, get to the half a year, make a friend, have some form of like personal connection, really understand your schedule, those sort of things. By the time you make it to the half a year mark, chances of you making it to a year are pretty good. The people who leave at around a year, they leave because there is something structural that is not working for them. So they are competent, they are personable, but at the end of the day, there's something either about the driving or about the documentation or just about, I don't know, in the case of hospice, for people who are like new to hospice, the fact that like it's not curative. The fact that you have to kind of like cycle through new patients every single time, that wears on people. And then typically once you get past 18 months, 24 months, that's when you have someone for life. That's when people are just happy as a clam, hitting productivity and truly like serving as the mentors and preceptors like for the next class of nurses, aides, other sort of clinicians.
Yeah, it's and culture's part of that, right? Changing leadership's part of it, changing ownership's part of it. But
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. It's funny. We looked a lot at data. You and I were, and then me and a couple of customers were, and the amount of people that essentially are professional orientation attenders. So they go to orientation, then they leave and go somewhere else, and go to orientation, they leave and go somewhere else, go to orientation. And it's crazy. I'd love to trend, or start tracking some of these people. But the challenge is a lot of times they signed up for a job they really didn't know that they were doing. They
Yeah.
signed up to be a CNA, and they thought they were going to be working in some type of facility. They've never been in home health or hospice. And now they're
Yeah.
driving around, going to strangers' homes. People are inviting you into their home to take care
Yep.
of them, which is amazing. But they're by themselves. They're lonely. It's them and the patient. That's it. And so, we
Yeah.
see that a lot where we didn't explain the job well in the beginning. And so people, they went through orientation. They're like, this is way too hard. I don't want to do this. And so they leave. What
Yeah.
does turnover cost? Not in an aid. Let's talk nursing and therapists.
Never
What
send me that.
what does that cost us? Do you think to have someone that only works 6 months and turns over?
Yeah. I think it really depends on the exact provider and what are the things that they consider part of it. So is it the application? Is it the training? Is it the onboarding, the ramp up? What's in it? But typically what our customers are baking into their assumptions is around 40,000 per nurse. And a lot of that is in the fact that it takes a while for a nurse to get productive. It takes a
For
while
sure.
for them to put on like a full panel. And guess what? You're paying them like you're like for a per visit nurse, like you're guaranteeing their pay. And for a salaried nurse, you're paying them a salary. So that is probably the bulk of what that 40,000 is. And funnily enough, that's actually how Level Recruit came about in the first place, because Level Retain was here and we were like identifying like here are the people who are just not good fits. Here are the people where you might have a chance, but like you're most likely going to lose them in the next 30 to 60 days. And then the natural question is, well, can you help me? What happens if we lose them? Are we going to have to divert patients? Am I going to have to just add more load to my existing workforce? Can you help me with that? And that's how we started with, all right, in that case, let's use that information to start informing what are the locations that need like what discipline, and how do we get that shorten the time to fill and make it so that patients get continuous care.
Yeah. I mean, if you can eliminate turnover and eliminate your cycle time to hire new people, you're going to be able to care for more patients. And by the way, every home health provider I know today has more patients than they can serve.
Yeah.
If they just had the right payers and the right number of staff, they could serve more people. And so what that always tells me is somebody's grandma's out there, that they're at the back of the train waiting. They're waiting. And that sucks, that they're not getting care. All right, let's look. I always hate looking 5 years ahead, because if you look back a year, the world's changed so much.
I can't tell. Yeah.
But if you looked a couple of years ahead, 3 to 5 years ahead in the home health and hospice space, any outlooks, things that you're seeing, things that you're thinking about? Where's all this AI going to take us? What's on your mind there?
I think providers are going, and they already are, but they're going to get really efficient really fast. And we're going to find out who's able to adapt and who isn't. Because with the regulatory outlook, with funding, with just all the requirements that are put on today, um, like Medicare Advantage, like it's just it's very much like like a must do moment for the industry. And I think the ones that are going to truly thrive in this new environment are those who are the most comfortable with being uncomfortable. The ones who are no, truly, it's like
It's true.
it's the ones who are willing to bite the bullet and potentially like centralize back office functions. It's the ones who are really going to take a hard look on, all right, of the like 24 different jobs that I'm asking my clinical supervisors to do, which ones do they actually need and which ones can be offloaded? It's the ones who realize, hey, I need to be able to meet all my applicants where they are and work on their timeline, not on my timeline. And frankly, I don't know, the number of people I've talked to who've said like, oh, like the reason why like our time to fill is like so long is because it takes forever to get references back. Great. We're averaging 36 hours. So it's just one of those like it it's a really long-winded way to say it. It's just like it's either you adapt or you don't.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think about just like back to the portals when, WellSky bought CarePort and CureSpan, All Scripts Referral Management or ESON or whatever you call it, and ADA and all these other portals that are out there. When that first came in, everybody was freaking out. Like we have to have all these people, staring at the portals. And do you let salespeople do it, or do you let, do you have other office staff do it? And now everybody has a robot. I mean, there's a robot, an RPA robot on every single one of these. But if you don't centralize that function, how are you going to manage it? And historically, intake was a local, model.
Yeah.
I didn't want you asking a doctor, that he's referred a patient to you, how do you spell Kissimmee? Or you say the word wrong, or Spokane, or whatever it is. And so we used to all think that intake was a local function. And now I tell you, we spend more time centralizing intake. Recruiting used to be a local function. Now I think it should be centralized until you get to the point where you're interviewing the candidate.
I don't think we're quite
Scheduling.
there yet, for what it's worth. I don't think we're quite there. We still talk to some pretty sizable providers that still have like local recruiting.
Is it regional or is it local? Is it in the branch level or is it regional?
Oh, regional.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I see that too. But I think if you don't evolve, if you don't change, you're going to run into these challenges where you have too many people in each one of your branches and you're not going to be as efficient as the guys that are centralizing everything. And there's some rather large hospices that we've been a part of that, I mean, literally centralize everything. The only thing that happens in the branch is care management and care for patients. And everything else is centralized. All their functions, billing, scheduling, intake, payroll, recruiting, staffing, finance, all of it's centralized. And those are the most well-run, efficient agencies out there.
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, right? Where you want to make sure that clinicians can focus on being clinicians. You want to make sure that people are spending as much time with patients as possible. Any minute that's spent not directly working with a patient or thinking about a patient is a minute that you're taking away.
Yeah, I think about like med management. This one drives me crazy, and I've always tried to solve it. We never have, but I think we're real close to solving it now. And just if you look at the average patient, they're on somewhere between 12 to 14 meds. It's in home health or hospice. If you're on 14 meds, it takes 2 minutes of med to put those in. That's 28 minutes that it took me with picking up the bottle, looking at the sig, typing the med. It's 28 minutes of wasted time that I should have been able to download that from the EMR that they were in, or pull it through AI, or take a picture of those meds and drop them in. I mean, but it's crazy. On every starter care, we're doing, 28 minutes on average. And I've seen patients that had 30, 40 meds, it's like taking a bowl of cereal and eating, your medicines. And they have 30 meds, you get an hour of just loading meds into the system.
Wow.
And it's bizarre. So there's we got to become more efficient in all these things we do. Yeah. By the way, as you go to the hospital, they inventory your meds and they do that part of the intake process. It's super easy, and the rest of the organization gets a copy of them all. So it's a real challenge in this industry. And, Homecare, Homebase, WellSky, NetSmart, those guys have to solve this problem. I think 5 years from now, I don't know. I'm worried. I mean, 5 years from now, the whole world's going to change. I think we'll still be doing in-home care. I think we have a lot more patients. I think we'll have different payer models. I don't think Medicare is going to survive the current state, so it's going to become a different payer model. Hospice may be carved in, maybe carved out. We're not sure yet. They're not. I don't believe people mess with hospice as much because it's the angels. It's once you've had that experience, it's pretty amazing. If you haven't watched, have you seen the Joe Rogan Guy Fieri comments about hospice? It's pretty amazing. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. Guy was on the Joe Rogan show, and he's the guy that did the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and he had a really amazing experience with hospice, and he talks about it. And I'm trying to get Guy to come be on this show, but he keeps saying no to me. But
Yeah.
or his staff does. I don't think he really gets my emails, but we've tried. I have a few connections to him, a few people that know him, so I'm trying to get him to come on the show. I think it'd be cool.
I mean, we have a Guy Fieri kitchen just down the street from where I live.
Yeah, why don't you go hang out there for about a month, and so when he shows up there and he's not on his tour, just look for his little red Camaro cruising around. That's cool.
Whatever it takes to get you to come out to Boston.
Exactly.
Hey, this is Alex with Steno Health. Our mission at Steno is simple: to improve the quality of life of the post-acute care clinician. Steno uses ethical, compliant AI to capture visits in real time and turn natural conversations into accurate notes and forms. We are clinicians ourselves, and we've designed Steno to never feel like an extra click or an extra burden in your day. The goal isn't to replace anything, but to support you in every aspect of your day so you can spend more time with your patients and still have the energy and freedom to be present with your family at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's crazy though. I think 5 years from now, I think the world changes a lot. I still think we'll be doing home care and hospice. I still think we'll be visiting patients. No robot's ever going to replace a hug or compassion or those kind of things. But I think we'll be able to do it in a way more efficient manner. I also think the government's going to figure out telehealth, and that we really don't need to be present with the patient as often, especially as they're trending to get better. So I think you'll see the government do something with telehealth at some point. You can use it today. You can use it all you want. You just can't get paid for it. You can't charge it as a visit. So we got to change that for sure.
I mean, that's just what drives all behavior, right? So when we talk about like, I don't know, like Medicare Advantage, like rate cuts, like all those sort of things, of course it's going to change behavior. Like, do you see that study about how patients on Medicare Advantage get on average lower quality care from providers?
That was a JAMA article. I think I had Cole posted in the show notes of some previous episodes. We could post it again here. It was a really super cool. I mean, it was an interesting article that essentially said if you're on Medicare Advantage, the chance of you getting a high quality 5-star, 4-star agency to take care of you are very low. And so that what's going to happen is those that take the lower rates, use your lower quality, they don't have so much sophistication. They don't have tools. They don't get recruiting. They don't have, the episode management or clinical management tools in place. You're going to get a lesser quality provider, which is unfortunate because people are signing up for Medicare Advantage all over the place, and they're doing it because of all the benefits that they get. But that benefit is a negative benefit.
Yeah, and I think just kind of like stepping aside on all of our like realism, efficiency, like all those sort of things. Just when you think about what healthcare is, people deserve the highest quality care, regardless of whether they're on an Advantage plan or Medicare, like fee for service or any of that. That's kind of like our obligation. And I don't know. I just feel like the fact that, what is it, like the average like Medicare Advantage rate like per patient visit is like 40%, 30% less or something like that compared to traditional Medicare.
That's right.
Like, what type of behavior do you think you're going to get with that sort?
It's unfortunate, and I don't think people do it on purpose, but it's unfortunate that you get a lot less quality of care for sure. It's concerning to me though. Okay, I want to figure it out. I want to shake a crystal ball and figure it out, but I know we can't. Has there been a patient in your career that you've heard stories around, or that you've seen, or you've been a part of, or a moment in your career that's like really said, okay, this is my calling to home health and hospice? We all have that one story. What's your one story?
Yeah, so I'm changing her name, but let's just say Jeannie. So Jeannie lived in Belmont, Massachusetts, which is around probably like 15 or so minutes from here. And visited her, also said hi to her aide. And Jeannie has 4 boys. They all live in Boston. And like she also had like pretty advanced dementia by the time that I visited. She thought that I was one of her sons. And she started talking to me, asking me about like how I played hockey. I don't play hockey. And was asking me about my kids. Don't have kids yet. And all of that, it really stuck with me where I'm like those are the patients who were taken care of. This is why we do what we do. She was showing me her stuffed dog called Shadow. Later, I learned from the case manager, she actually had a black lab named Shadow, and they gave her this stuffed animal to kind of like help her with just like the anxiety, not knowing where she is, like those sort of things. And it was just one of those where I remember just kind of like tracking the chart, like as my time went on, and just kind of seeing, all right, like how is she doing? Like, is she getting all of her visits? How is she kind of like progressing? And yeah, I don't know. I think it was just truly one of those, like, I'm either fortunate or like unfortunate where um my grandparents, so we lost my grandfather, like my maternal grandfather, like very early. And like the other grandparents are still fairly young because, you know, like China was a developing country until probably like 15 years ago. So everyone had kids like way early. Like my mom had me when she was 26. I'm older than 26 and I don't have a kid yet, like that sort of thing. So I haven't gone through that from a personal perspective. And that was just my first, wow, you are so sweet. You are so kind. You have no idea who I am. Sort of sort of moments. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's really stuck with me.
We had a Meemaw and Peepaw, and Peepaw had dementia really bad,
Yeah.
and he used to shoot the mailbox all the time. They lived out in the country, and the
Yeah.
mailbox was there, and he always thought it was, you know, the guys were coming to get him, and so he'd get his shotgun and go out there and be shooting rounds off at the mailbox, and cops
Yeah.
would come and arrest Peepaw for shooting his gun off. And I'm like, he's 86 years old. He, you know, he went to jail and like got home the next day, and he's like, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah. And
go look
then
at the
it's just like,
mailbox.
and it's like, what can you do other than take like Peepaw's car keys and like lock up his guns?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, he really thought somebody was coming to get him, so he shot the mailbox up. I'm like, golly. All right, you're an entrepreneur. Took the risk. It's an amazing jump, by the way. And I talked to lots of people in my career about, you know, taking the risk and doing the jump. It's hard. You know, it's a big risk. You're self-funding this company. You're bootstrapping it, as you call it. What lessons have you learned there, and would you do it again?
Have a supportive family. I think the fact that I, I honestly think that's probably the biggest one. And maybe it's true regardless of what type of business you're running, but like I trust my wife Sophia with everything. She she knows everything that's going on, and she's also like the first person who I go to. Um and well, let's just take like this past weekend, for example. We moved into a new office. We're like in the middle of setting up. There's also a pretty busy time for us with both like product, new team members, new client onboardings, like those sort of things. I spent the entire weekend like in the office. And I think it could have been like she could have made a big deal, could have fussed and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this." No, she was absolutely amazing, so supportive, and frankly, just like my rock. And I truly believe that from every entrepreneur who like has made it, whatever you want to define that as, they have one, a chip on their shoulder, just some sort of thing that keeps them going when everything else is like telling them to, a supportive spouse, because you can't do this alone. And three, a friend who's a lawyer who they can who they can text whenever they want.
Yeah, everybody needs a friend that's a lawyer,
Yeah.
especially when it's free. Yeah, it's a big deal to take a leap. A lot of people can't do it. You know, and it's a big risk for you, but you did it and you took it. Would you do it again?
I would. I would. And I think a big thing is, especially like if we were to look at kind of like what's going on in our world, there's so much change. it's like, yes, I believe that starting your own business is a risk. I do believe that there's a lot of things that can go wrong that are like in or out of your control or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It's like I get car sick, so I prefer to be the driver. That's kind of how I see this as well, where yes, like we may fail, but I'd at least prefer it to be in a way where I can have the facts in front of me and make the decisions with the information that's in front of me, than kind of like be a passenger on someone else's bus.
Yeah, it's I'm that way too. I want to be at the top of the leader. I don't want to be the CEO of anything you do, and I get that, but
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not good. I'm not a good follower. I'm not a good employee. I don't think. I like to be at the front and making the decision and moving and being accountable for my decisions. It's cool. What let's jump into some fun questions.
Please.
Coffee or tea? What fuels your morning?
Coffee. I had a double espresso this morning.
Me too. That's what I hear. Scott Beard got me on these iced cafe Americano. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago.
Cool.
And it's the most stupidest, expensive thing that I do, but it's my only crutch. So do it.
How many shots are in that thing? That's a big
2.
cup.
2.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's a lot of hot water, but
Nice.
I know you're a big podcast listener because you and I share a lot of them. Other than the Last Visit First podcast being your favorite, of course.
Yep.
What's some other podcasts that you're really into that you like?
Yeah, I'd probably go Last Visit First. Big gap. Acquired.
Oh,
Founders. And then there's one in, I don't know, I'm probably outing myself for being a history nerd, but I really like Cost of Glory. If you've heard that one. It's a lot of the, I would say, like classics. So there's a lot on like Roman generals, statesmen, like all that kind of thing.
it's cool. We, you and I spent a lot of time on the Acquired podcast.
Hell yeah.
You know, the Starbucks one was really cool. The Microsoft one was really good. I know you and I did that one. Apple was pretty good. Epic was actually a really good podcast. And then those are long form, like, 3 or 4 hours where they go deep and study these companies. And I think you have to study history in order to figure out what's going on in the future. And some of the decisions they made back in the days in those companies are pretty wild. But, it all comes back to, and if I think about all the Acquired podcasts that we've listened to, or all the Founders podcasts, the one thing that every one of those leaders that were super successful in their careers did that nobody else did is they out-hustled everybody else. They weren't the smartest guy. I mean, lots of people say, Bill Gates is smart, but he wasn't the smartest, but he hired the right people. Yeah, he out-hustled everybody else. He worked harder and hired the right people. And, Jobs always talks about that. So, the levels of an employee engagement platform and recruiting, retaining, and so hiring the right people is super important. And at all levels, right? You got to have the right aide. You got to have the right hustler and aide. You got to have the right nurse, right chaplain, right social worker, right, right clinical supervisor, right recruiter, right salesperson. And so missing that's going to cause your business to have problems. So, that's a good one. I highly recommend you guys go look at Acquired. There's a lot of episodes. If you're on an airplane, it's a great place to do. If you weren't in healthcare, Jason, and I know you did a stint on the finance side and the private equity side, what would your career be? Professional rower?
Absolutely not. No, my rowing and triathlon, my strategy there is, as everyone ages and gets slower, I'm just gonna keep my college time, and eventually I'll get pretty fast. No, I think I'd probably run either a restaurant or some sort or some sort of school. I think, and maybe this doesn't need to make the cut, but like I truly believe in, like, there's potential everywhere, man. There's potential everywhere, and the issue is people are influenced by their outside environment. And if you truly want to cultivate that potential, you have to make sure that you're identifying them early and also putting them in the right environment with the right peers where everyone pushes each other. Like, I saw that in the school that I was teaching at. I'm seeing that just around kind of like the greater Boston community in terms of like all the programs after school, like those sort of things. And yeah, I think outside of this, like, I would really want to figure out how do we get like little poor kids like me to get into some of the best schools in the country and to really open these doors? Like, I didn't even know what consulting was. I didn't know what private equity was. I didn't know any of those things. And it was only when I was like, what, like 21 or 22, when I learned, so you get paid to solve problems? That's pretty cool.
It's a good life.
Yeah.
What do you want your legacy to be? So if people think back and they're reading your book back in 50 years from now, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Jason brought out the best in me. So I've been meeting with an exec coach who's been kind of like helping me with a lot of kind of like the team building thing. Because think about it, right? It's like this is the longest stint I've ever done. Not to like out myself, but it's just like I was very much like worker bee, approaching middle management in consulting, and then all of a sudden I went off to like, and I was in charge of what, like 130 like or so employees, and now in charge of like both our team as well as kind of like our various like client counterparts, like our customers. So there's been so much of this, and it's like, yeah, Jason's a very direct communicator. Jason will tell you feedback like as he sees it. And for some people, it doesn't land well. Some people, like, they thrive off of it. And I truly want it to be, it's like someone thought that like their expectation for themselves was here, but I kept on pushing them. And then they realized, I can actually do so much more. And now I believe in myself because of him.
Good. That's really good.
Yeah.
So I think it's impressive that you hired a coach. Jennifer and I have had a coach for years, and when you work with your spouse, and we talk about that on a lot of episodes, but it's tough. But what made you hire a coach? And as a I won't call you a junior leader, but a newer CEO, first time CEO, what made you hire a coach, and how'd you find him, one, and what made you hire him? And then two, recommendations for the listeners on that.
Yeah. Just because you're a first time CEO doesn't mean your team needs to go through the trauma of working for a first time CEO.
It's good. Well put.
That truly was the motivation, where it's like, especially within kind of like the startup sphere, like first time founder is like a thing where you're seen as kind of like a risk, a red flag, a yellow flag, or whatever you want to call it. And the reason why I first got a coach, I mean, she started out as like a communications coach, where it was, all right, I was really familiar with going through slides and like leading with data, leading with facts, like figures, that sort of thing. And what I soon realized, especially when working with some of the largest providers in the space, is that's really important, but they get a lot of facts and figures every single day, all day. What's most important is like helping them understand, all right, this is my biggest problem, and Levo is here to help me address my biggest problem. So that was originally how we started. And then just like very like transparently, she made the observation, hey, I've realized, like, after watching some of your like conversations and call recordings and like that sort of thing, how you show up is very much dependent on your mindset and how the week was going. So what she has really helped me with is writing out the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and truly working through, okay, is this like a coachable moment for this team member, or is this a bad fit? Is this something that we can screen for in the future? Or is this just something where it's like it's a coin flip, and unfortunately it didn't flip like your direction? And yeah, I highly recommend. I think there's a good number of like coaches. You probably have to like cycle through a couple to find the one that's right for you. But yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, Jen and I had one. We had like an hour a week that we'd spend and bring hot topics that and he's not going to solve, ours as a guy, he's not going to solve business problems for you, but he's going to tell you, pros and cons of working through this, or think about it this way, or, and what we thought was a major deal really wasn't a big deal. And
yeah, exactly.
And one of my most favorite questions that our coach asked us was, if you knew what you know about this person today, would you rehire them? And if the answer is not yes, you should really question whether there's the right person on your team or not. And screening employees is important. There's professional interviewers out there. There's people that are really, really good. And so once you get them on the team, if they're not the right person, and if you wouldn't hire them again, why are they still on your team? Or are they in the right role? We always talk about, the right seat on the bus, which I'm not sure what that really means, but are you driving, or are you a passenger, or are you, the guy that's, watching the right side or the left side? And so getting in the right seat on the bus, maybe not everybody can be the driver. Some people need to be the riders. It's cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, though. It's, I think it's important. You said something earlier that I want to double click on. You might be the only business that I know of that's moving into a new office. So tell us why you're doing that. In the world of COVID, most people aren't going into the office as much anymore. And I think you're seeing this new rise of people getting pushed back into the office, or companies requiring people to come back in the office for a certain amount of time during the week. How are you handling that as a business? How are you handling that as a leader? And then any strategies that you want to talk to the audience about? Because I think it's a real challenge we're running into.
We're selecting for people who miss working with people. That's as simple as it gets. It's that we're moving into a new office, and I mean strategically, right? We're also in a part of town where a lot of people already live and hang out. So for those of us in the Northeast, like, this is in Boston and this is in Back Bay, and the reason why we're also like 3 doors down from your favorite steakhouse in Boston. But
is that like a bait? You just trying to hook me to get me to come to Boston?
I know. I'm just trying to get you to come visit. I'm getting you Guy Fieri. I'm getting you Contessa. I'm getting you all those things.
For sure.
But yeah. So because of that, I see this office as, yes, like, we do get a lot of work done, but more importantly, this is a place where people want to hang out. So especially for our engineers, we understand, like, there's a lot of like solo work that needs to be done. So if you're really cranky on a big release, like, work from home. That's totally fine. But come in, have lunch, have coffee, hang out. And that truly is the part that I missed about kind of like the years after COVID, where all the interactions that I was having with my coworkers and later like my employees, it was about work. We were getting stuff done. We were going through an agenda. We were working through a problem, those sort of things. But now, I don't know, there's just a lot more organic stuff that are coming through, and maybe it takes a special type of employee, but I found that it's actually it wasn't a hard decision, and it wasn't a hard ask for the team. People just want to see each other again.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and we're seeing another trend where there's, instead of having one big corporate office, everybody has to live in Dallas, everybody has to live in Boston. We're seeing regional offices be created a lot, so smaller, regional footprints.
Yep.
We challenged, I challenged our team early on. We had a bunch of interns at Maxwell TEC that we always have a great intern program that we do, and we've hired a bunch of our interns.
Yep.
And I mean, how do you be an intern? How do you learn the ways of the office? How do you learn, the kitchen talk, the conversations, we have a big couch in our office, and I love to go sit on that couch and just gather everybody around and just what's going on in life. Let's talk about, it doesn't have to be home health, or it doesn't have to be hospice, but they'll ask me questions. And then I spend time with all the interns every week. I spend an hour of my time, and the goal is we'll talk about business for 30 minutes. We'll talk about that, but they don't want to know, like, what's going on in your life. What do you like here? What do you not like here? If you were me, what would you do different? If you were the CEO, somebody said, I don't like that we have a bottled water get delivered to the office. We should have that hooked into a tap and run through a filter. And I'm like, okay, fine. And by the way, she did the analysis on it and came back and said, hey, it's going to be a lot cheaper too. And so, like, okay, done. I can't stand those water bottles anyway. I'm lugging around 5-gallon water bottles. So, like, why are we doing that? Like, so all those kind of things are really important. But if you're not coming into the office, you're not sitting down together, it's tough to do that. And so we've tried to be really flexible and create a flexible schedule. I think people got comfortable during COVID that they could work more. They could, and then we were all guilty of this. You could work more hours because you got up in the morning, you didn't have a commute, you could start at 7 versus 8, blah, blah, blah. But they also got used to the flexibility of being able to go pick up the kids from school, or drop the kids off, or, run to the pharmacy, or, go to the grocery store, do this kind of things. And to be honest, I don't really care and those kind of things. I want to be flexible, but I also want that experience of you being in the office and working together. And we're renting space for you. We're buying you computers. We're setting your internet up, all that stuff. If we're not using it, we're not using it. So
Yep.
I don't know. It's there's a big, there's a lot of controversy around, whether you go to the office or force it or not. And I think if you create an environment that people want to come into the office because it's fun, it's easy, it's productive. I think everybody wants to be productive, right? But good for you for getting a new office and continue to expand. I think it's really important. All right, Jason, what questions do you have for me? Is there anything you want to ask me?
What's coming up after this podcast? I know you're going to talk to all these guests. I know you're going to share with the industry. What's next?
I don't know. I there's so many things going on in Tom Maxwell's mind, circles of products that I want to build and things that I want to work on and solutions we want to solve. I don't ever want to retire. I'm 55 years old. I got 50 more years, Lord willing, that I can live that long. I always talk about this podcast. You asked me the best question when I first started thinking about doing it. And I was getting a lot of pressure. I was actually
you gotta help me with this.
Yeah, I was at a dinner with the CEO of Homecare, and they were lots of pressure around. You need to start the podcast. The ones that we have in the industry are not focused. We want to learn from all these people, and it was kind of that aha moment that like they were all like, "You need to do this, Tom. You know everybody in the industry. You need to do it." And so I said, "Okay, we're going to do it." And so I hired a podcast producer and all that. Again, the goal is not to make money; it's to pay for itself. We're not going to get rich on a podcast; never wanted to. But you asked me the question: why are you doing that? Like, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. Like, what's in it for you, Tom? And I think that the real question there was: do we have a story that we want to tell? Do we have this message we want to do? That our companies that we work with want to be able to get on here and talk about it, and then people really want to get to know the leaders of the industry, and that's the reason we're doing it more than anything else. Is just how do we share? How do we spread? How do we get people to listen to it? But at the end of the day, how do we share the stories of what we're doing? And I think we can do it on a front that people will want to listen to. But also, I think we can get the right guest on here. And so we have 39 episodes already cranked up, and we have all the guests for all those. Yeah, so
nice.
We're going to keep doing it every 2 weeks. And I never thought I'd love it, but I actually really enjoy doing it. It's fun getting to know people and talking to them and hearing their stories. I don't know what's next after that. I think, we're going to continue to expand all of the companies we're working with and continue to invest in companies where, Jennifer and I we have the Maxwell Advisory Group. We're looking to continue to put money and capital to work in companies that we can help grow. And I don't want to buy big companies. I want to help the small, companies where it's more fun. I want to have the guys that are having fun, not the guys that are making the guy money. Good. Yeah, but great question. Well, dude, I really appreciate you coming on and telling your story. I'm super excited for what you guys are building. I think it's, you kind of got a niche industry that you're really focused on, and appreciate you coming in and giving your story and being a guest on our show. And hopefully people will like it, subscribe to it, leave comments. If they want to find you, how do they find you?
All right. So we're on our website, hellolevo.com. We also have a LinkedIn page. We're there. You can also just email me. Just put that in the show notes, and please, would love to. I don't know if you're interested in coaching, if you want to get your team in an office and set up a place where they want to hang out and actually spend time with each other. We work through that. If you want to hear about benchmarks on what we're seeing with turnover, depending on what size of practice or where you are or what business line, we probably have some sort of idea of how you stack up. So just however we can be helpful.
That's really awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And Cole will put links to your website, links to your LinkedIn, links in your email address into the show notes. So if anybody wants you, go grab them there.
Yeah,
dude,
absolutely.
Appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.